Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, everybody? I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Account for Your Life podcast. This is Jay Moore, your healthy accountant, helping you to account for your life. And today, here's what we're talking about. We're talking about how to get rid of imposter syndrome for good. Hey, who doesn't want to get rid of, that feeling that you have when it feels like, man, I don't know if I can do that today. We're going to talk about that. And look, guys, this is somewhat of a preview of what we're doing this week, the Good Accounting Challenge, guys. If you have not registered for the Good Accounting Challenge, look, go to goodaccountingchallenge.com, get registered. It's free. You want to get registered because if you're a business owner, and specifically if you know you've got a purpose or a calling, this is the challenge for you. And today's lesson in the challenge is going to be a game changer. So don't forget to register. So let's go ahead and jump right in this. How to get rid of the imposter syndrome. Now here's the thing. We may not get rid of it for good in the next 10 to 12 minutes, but you will be on your way to get rid of it. So I wanted to just kind of share some ideas with you today about the imposter and how the imposter shows up. So the imposter, what is imposter? Someone acting as if there's something that they're not. So that's the first thing. We want to just make sure we understand what an imposter is today. What is that? Someone who's acting as if there's something that they're not. All right, well, check this out. I want to introduce you to somebody. I want to introduce you to this person called self. And this person called self, everyone has self, and this person called self has unique abilities. And so before we kind of get into all the unique abilities that self has, let's think about how does I think yesterday we talked about this briefly. How does self grow? How does self grow? Well, here's what's interesting about self. Self grows on its own. You don't even have to do anything to make self grow. Guys, I'm going to take you back. I'm 51. I know, look good. I'm 51. And at 51, when I was born, just like when you were born, I'm not sure how old you are, self was activated. And here's the thing about self. Self and you has to get connected at some point, because if you never connect to self, guys, if you never connect to self, here's what's going to happen. You're going to live your life. And I lived my life for a long time. I lived my life based on what the external or what was outside of me. What's that? Oh, Jay, what are you talking about? What's outside of me? All right. Let's go back. Let's go back even further. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. And, if you are a Bible believer, someone who believes in God, then this is good for you because you're probably purpose driven. Now, if you don't, I'm not sure what to tell you, but I'm going back to the beginning. And in the beginning, when God said, let us make man in our image, man is the whole species. Man is neither male or female, but it's the whole. So I want you to consider this. God said, after he had already done all this cool stuff, well, what kind of cool stuff did he do? He said he just created things out of nothing. So God created things out of nothing. And this is the clue that we have to get today. This is the clue because you want to get rid of imposter syndrome for good. And this is how you're going to do it. Well, this is the start. I'm not going to tell you you're going to do it, but this is the start. Once you understand, okay, God created everything out of nothing, and then he had the nerve to say, let us make a species called man in our image. All right. This is where you got to stop and think, because then you got to look back again. We just came off the weekend, and if you follow the calendar is made up. It's interesting, right? Because you got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Day 6, day 7 is on Saturdays every week. And in that book that we love to read, day 7 just happened to be on Saturday. And on that day, he said that I'm going to set that day apart. Now I'm moving ahead, but I just want to say that that's a day that you and I can use, because I use it that way. You and I can use so that we can look back. Like, what happened those 6 days that God was creating? Let us make man in our image. That's the first thing he said. Let us make man in our image. All right. What is God's image? First, we got to look back to day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. What do we discover on all those days? God is creative. God is creative. So if God is creative, and look, we don't even have to study this whole verse like to infinitum today, because we don't have that much time. If God's creative, then what are you? What are you? You're creative. So that means that what he did give you was an ability to create stuff. Look around. I got a microphone in front of me. Someone created that. I've got a computer that I'm using today. Someone created it. We've got the internet that was always available, but someone had to create some things in order for us to access it. I got a camera sitting right here on top of my computer. Someone created that. I got a cell phone sitting right here. Someone created that. I've got a telephone on this side of me. Someone created it. I had a desk that I'm sitting at. Someone created it. I have a chair that I'm sitting on that someone created. I've got a keyboard sitting right here that someone created. I've got pens sitting next to me that someone had to think up and create. I've got a ring light that's sitting in front of me that someone created. Creative. Wait a second. God created you in his image. There's no possible way you can be an imposter about anything. It's not even possible. But before we leave you on where you can go from here, we just got to first understand, because in order to activate this stuff, something has to click inside of you. Remember, we're talking about self. What is self? Where is self hiding? God hid himself inside of you. So he hid him inside of you. Now, but here's the thing. No one can find it. Right? No one can find it. If you went to the doctor, if you went to the scientific lab and they put you down and said, hey, let's look and see. Let's see if we can find that self. Let's see if we can find where it is. No one can find it. They've looked for it, but they can't find it. But here's what they did find. They found when the scientists have really been studying frequencies. They've been studying the frequencies. They've been studying different lights. They can study the human body, and they can tell when something interesting is happening. I think I mentioned, not mentioned it yesterday, but there's a Dr. Joe Dispenza. You should get his book. I think he has a book that I have in one of my boxes here, Being Supernatural. I think that's the name of the book. And he talks about the science. He don't talk nothing about God, even though it's embedded. But he talks about the science and how just scientifically they now know that we all possess this higher self on the inside of us. But it takes something. You got to activate it. All right. So one of the things that God did, he built into your success, is that he gave you a commandment. It's funny. I asked a question this weekend, I think to my son and my wife. I said, hey, what's the first commandment? Oh, thou shalt have no other gods before me. I said, that's not the first commandment. See, the problem that a lot of religion, I'm not going to get into the big problem, but the problem people have with understanding the Bible is that people aren't studying it. People aren't studying it to figure out can I apply this? Not how can I read and how can I memorize, but how can I apply this stuff? Because apparently there's something that has to be in here. I think I talked about the prayer, Solomon's prayer on Saturday. But we're not talking about Solomon today. We're going to finish this up in the next 3 minutes, I think. So here it is. The first commandment That's what we're talking about. The first commandment is not, thou shalt have no other gods before me. The first commandment is be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, have dominion. That's the first commandment. That's the first commandment. Now we're going to ask ourselves, man, how have I applied that in my life? All right, most of us, since we didn't really know that was the first commandment, most of us aren't even taught to even focus on being fruitful, right? Because what does that mean? If God is talking about being fruitful, what's inside of a fruit? Or what is how is a fruit created? A fruit is created from a seed. So if he's telling you to be fruitful, then he's saying that there's a seed inside of you that has to grow. There's a seed on the inside that has to grow. And if you don't grow the seed, then it's going to be almost impossible to become fruitful, and it's going to be almost impossible to get rid of the imposter. Guys, the imposter is there for a reason. The imposter is there because the imposter only lives by what he or she sees on the outside of them. That's the imposter, because the imposter has to react to what's happening on the outside of them. Just like when Adam and Eve sinned, what happened is the first thing they recognized was, oh, we don't have any clothes on. What are you talking about? That didn't even bother you when you actually knew who you were. But once they lost their connection to self, once they lost the connection to God, then they immediately did not understand who they were. They didn't understand it anymore. It was almost like, I'm not sure if I want to look at you all day and you don't got no clothes on. Let's go get some clothes on. I think we'll be more comfortable if we have clothes on. But they didn't have any clothes on. I wish we knew like how long they was in the garden, but we don't know. But then all of a sudden they needed clothes. Guys, getting rid of the imposter syndrome is something that requires an effort. See, because the way God set it up, he did not set it up. He did not set it up. At least now, because of sin, you actually have to desire it. You have to actually desire to change, desire to become yourself. There's a series of questions that I'm going to take my challenges through this week, through today, because a lot of times we go into business and we think the business is bigger than us when the business is smaller than you. Because you could have many businesses at the same time. The business is smaller than you. Without you, the business is nothing. The business comes from you. The business literally comes from within you, and you create it. Then all of a sudden you say, oh, I can do that again. I can create another. So the business is smaller than you. We're allowing the business to control. No, you control because of the self that you are. God placed himself on the inside of you. So when you can come to grips with the fact that God is creative, and then God created me in his image so that I can co-create with him because he placed himself on the inside of me. How in the world could there be an imposter? Because every time you come up against something that you've never done, you can look at it and say, I can do that. And I may not be able to do it like with ease right at this moment, but it's not bigger than me. Obviously, there's going to be limitations, and the real limitations are a lot of times physical. So physical limitations are real. Mental limitations are not. So anything that requires a thinking, everybody can access that. Now here's what's great. How I think and how you think is always going to be different, which means that we can always create something that's different. That's unique. And that's unique to us. Yesterday, I mentioned the authority that you get. You get authority like God's given me authority on what I'm doing. He gave that to me from the beginning. I didn't know I had it. It took time to connect with self. So guys, if you would like to get rid of the imposter syndrome, then This is your guide. Come back and watch this again. Now, if you want to take it to a new level, join the goodaccountingchallenge.com, even if you're not a business owner, because this will help you. This won't just help you in business. This will help you for your whole life. It's just that, look, at the end of the day, it's best to be in business because most people want to make more money. And that's going to happen when you, not just when you have a business, but just imagine taking the mindset into your job. How much more could you give a job? You would no longer be a wage earner. You would be what they call an entrepreneur, someone who may not necessarily, you didn't found the business, it's not yours, but you play the game as if it's yours. And you've taken responsibility for whatever it is that happens within you can use this stuff. Just like this podcast can be used for that reason. So get rid of imposter syndrome. A couple of ways. You're going to go back and you're going to realize who God created you to be. That's the first thing, right? God created you to be something. And so you got to discover, who are you? That's one of the first questions that the challenges will get today. And so guys, if you're a business owner, go register for goodaccountingchallenge.com. Let somebody else know about it. Look, I know there's people out here that's struggling, want to get rid of imposter syndrome. I think today is one of these days that we will be able to help people to get to a new level when it comes to understanding that they are more than everything that's in their environment. Their environment is something they can stomp on. And so today, that's what's happening in the challenge, guys. I appreciate you for joining me for this episode of the Account for Life podcast. I'm Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account for life. God bless. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.